Hello Internet, I'm Kron the Time Wizard, formerly known as Blue, and welcome back to another Thursday Night Magic deck tour. If this is your first time here, or you just want a refresher, these videos are pretty simple. First, we start by talking about the commander and discussing how it works and functions. Next, we're going to talk about the deck's overall strategy and game plan. And finally, we're going to talk about the entire deck list, organized into different categories based on the deck's synergies. Just a reminder before we begin, all of our decks, including today's deck, are available on our website, ThursdayNightMagic.com. Use code TNM10 for 10% off your first order. Now let's get started with the commander. Xyris the Writhing Storm is a 5-mana 3/5 flying snake leviathan and says whenever an opponent draws a card other than their default card for the turn, create a 1/1 green snake creature token, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each draw that many cards. By default, this would be 3 since it has 3 power, but there are cards in the deck to raise its power. Keep in mind this can be blocked, so there's no guarantee you'll get the snakes, but the flying does help with that. That being said, even though Xyris itself can be chump blocked, the entire deck is built around taking advantage of its snake generating ability, even when we can't get in during combat. We have several categories of cards that either care about drawing cards, make everyone at the table draw multiple cards at once, or force everyone to wheel their hand away. The deck has a snake subtheme to take advantage of the snakes too. Your game plan is to ramp out Xyris as quickly as possible since so much of the deck revolves around Xyris being in play. Then from there, make everyone draw cards so you make snake tokens, then use those to either chump block and stay alive, or attack and win the game if you grow a big enough army. As is tradition, we're going to start with the lands and ramp. For lands, we have some duels of varying degree, a handful of fetches, some 3-color lands, and a suite of basics. For ramp, we have 4 mana rocks in Soul Ring, Heraldic Banner, Commander Sphere, and Teamer Banner. Everyone knows what Soul Ring does, and Heraldic Banner chooses a color when it enters, it adds a mana of the chosen color, and it pumps the creatures of the chosen color as well by +1/+0. Usually you want to choose green since Xyris makes green snakes, but you can choose whatever color you need in a pinch. Commander Sphere and Teamer Banner are both 3-mana artifacts that can tap for red, green, or blue, and sacrifice themselves to draw a card later when you don't need the mana. For land ramp, we have Explorer to draw a card, and we get an additional land drop that turn, and Rampant Growth searches for a basic and puts it into play tapped. We also have Cultivate to get 2 basics, put one into play tapped and the other in your hand, and Grow from the Ashes to get 1 basic untapped, or 2 basics untapped if you kicked it. Finally, we have 3 somewhat unique ones that don't fit with the rest. Grand Warlord Rada makes mana when she attacks, and we keep the mana as we move through phases until the end of the turn. Battle Hymn adds red for each creature we control, which can end up being a lot of mana. And finally, Coveted Jewel costs 6 mana, but it taps to add 3 of any one color, and it draws you 3 cards when it enters the battlefield. There is a catch, however, that when an opponent attacks you and creatures go unblocked, they gain control of Coveted Jewel, draw 3 cards, and they untap it. Normally this is a downside, but since we want our opponent to draw cards, they either won't attack us, or they will and we get snake tokens. Either way, it's a win-win with Xyris on the board. We do have a couple more ramp cards we'll talk about in a moment, but I felt they belonged in different categories. Some snakes fight back and refuse to be trifled with. Negate and Arcane Denial can counter spells, Negate hitting only non-creature spells, and Arcane Denial countering anything and forcing your opponent to draw 2 cards and you to draw 1 card at the beginning of the next upkeep. Frogify and Snake Form can turn creatures into 1/1s with no abilities, but Snake Form is only until the end of the turn, so it's best to do it as a combat trick to blow out your opponent. Reality Shift can exile a creature and lets its owner manifest the top card of their library, and Broken Bond destroys an artifact through enchantment and you get to put a land into play. Commit puts a spell or non-land permanent second from the top of its owner's library, and it has Memory as an aftermath that you can cast from the graveyard so everyone gets to wheel. And lastly, Nin the Pain Artist can be tapped to deal X damage to target creature, and that creature's controller draws X cards, where X is the amount of mana you pay into the ability. Xyris isn't the only thing in our deck that cares about drawing cards. Psychosis Crawler and Niv Mizzet the Firemind both deal damage when you draw cards, and Lorescale Coatl and Horizon Chimera both provide different advantages, either getting a +1/+1 counter or gaining you a life every time you draw a card. We can't have a snake party without the snakes. Ambush Viper and Winged Coatl are almost the same card, just one has flying, but they're both 1/1s with flash and death touch. Orochi Eggwatcher, Patagia Viper, and Snake Pit will make snake tokens in various ways, either by tapping it whenever it enters, or when an opponent casts a blue or black spell respectively. Orochi Leafcaller is mana fixing, filtering green mana into any color. Orochi Sustainer adds green by tapping, and Sakura Tribe Springcaller adds green at the beginning of your upkeep, but this mana doesn't leave your pool until the end step. Coiling Oracle flips the top card of your library when it enters, and if it's a land, it goes into play. Otherwise, you put it into your hand, and Secure a Tribe Elder sacrifices itself to grab a basic and put it into play tapped. Our final two snakes are the Sashiro siblings. Sasuke gives all snakes +1/+0, and when a warrior deals combat damage to a creature, destroy it at the end of combat. And Sachi gives all snakes +0/+1 and gives shamans you control the ability to tap to add double green to your mana pool. I didn't know snakes knew how to drive, but they're taking the wheel today. If you don't know, a wheel in Magic is an effect that forces either one player or multiple players to get rid of their current hand somehow and draw new cards. Magus of the Wheel and Jace's Archivist are both wheels on a stick, requiring you to play them as creatures first, then activate them later. And Dragon Mage is similar in that it's a creature, but it has to deal combat damage to a player to wheel instead. Next, Korvath's Fury and Incendiary Command both give us options on how we want to do things. The former makes us choose friend or foe for each player. All friends wheel, and all foes take damage equal to the number of cards in their hand. And the command lets us choose 2 of 4 modes. Each player wheels, destroy target non-basic land, deal 4 damage to target player, or deal 2 damage to each creature. Finally, Windfall, Game Plan, and Temporal Cascade are all straight up wheels in different ways. Windfall discards everything and everyone draws cards equal to the highest number of cards discarded. Game Plan shuffles everything in and everyone draws 7 cards. And Cascade has Entwine, either shuffle everything in, or draw 7 cards, or pay the Entwine cost and do both. Xyris might as well rename itself to Oprah, because the amount of cards we're giving away is through the roof. Temple Bell and Folio of Fancies are slightly different, but they're both permanents that force everyone to draw cards. We don't care about the mill on Folio, and it also gives everyone no max hand size. Vision Skeins and Words of Wisdom both make everyone draw. Skeins draws 2, and Wisdoms draws you 2 cards, and everyone else 1 card. Prosperity and Fascination are almost the same card, because again, we don't care about the mill, but they both say each player draws X cards, where X is the amount of mana you pay into it. And Skyscribing says the same thing, with the additional ability of Forecast, so once during your upkeep, you can pay 2 and a blue and reveal the forecasted card from your hand, and everyone draws a card. Finally, Minds Aglow is a 1-mana sorcery that has joined forces. So starting with you, everyone pays any amount of mana, then everyone draws cards equal to the total amount of mana paid. So if nobody pays into it, then everyone draws 0 cards, but most people are very tempted by this, and even though it only costs a blue mana, you can still pay into it yourself. Xyris is a really powerful commander, but he only makes tiny garden snakes. We have a few ways to turn them into massive Anacondas instead. First, Might of the Masses and Scale Up both make one creature really big. Masses gives it +1/+1 for each creature you control, and Scale Up turns it into a 6/4 worm, but you can overload it for 4 double green to make everything you control a 6/4 worm. Shared Animosity gives attacking creatures +1/+0 for each other attacking creature that shares a type with it, and Biomass Mutation turns all creatures into an XX, where again, X is the amount of mana you pay into it. And finally, Overrun gives all creatures you control +3/+3 and trample. Sometimes waiting a turn is too much to ask, so we have a few ways to give our stuff haste and protect our commander. Fires of Yavimaya, Ogre Battle Driver, and Samut Tyrant Smasher all give our creatures haste in different ways, and they all have different upsides. Fires can be sacrificed to pump a creature, Battle Driver pumps the creature when it enters as well as giving it haste, and Samut is a planeswalker that has a -1 ability to give target creature +2/+1 in haste, and then you get to scry 1. We also have Snake Umbra and Boar Umbra. They both have Totem Armor, which says the enchanted creature would die, remove all damage from it, and destroy the Totem Armor aura instead. And Boar Umbra gives the enchanted creature +3/+3, and Snake Umbra gives +1/+1, and whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Xyris is a pretty fun commander if you like snakes and drawing cards. If you want to see this deck in action, I play all of our deck tour decks that I've done in a month in a game with my friends at the end of the month. If you're interested, subscribe so you don't miss out when that goes live. If you want to play this deck for yourself, you'll find a link in the description, and you can use code TNM10 for 10% off your first order. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to tap that like button as well. It adds 1 mana to the YouTube algorithm, and I'd greatly appreciate it. If you have a suggestion for a future video, leave a comment down below and we'll see what we can do to get to it. Anyway, that's everything for today. I'm going to flash in a Mystic Snake to counter the rest of the video, and I'll see you next time.